I know of no area where people have already said, let's content, we know enough, let's proceed to stop. But about 30 odd years ago, a man by the name of Alfred Cartography, Korzydzki, whose name isn't too well known, a man who has had very little academic recognition, who's had very little to do with any of our existing university colleges and so on. But he had a slightly different but interesting idea. This is what he thought. What is there, he said, in the far reaches of the university library? What is there that our professors of anthropology and zoology could agree on? What is there in this vast, tremendous intellectual creation that we produce? What is there that we all know together? Are there any ideas, simple, complicated, that everybody can agree on? And then he asked another, if we could find those ideas, is it possible that the neglect of this common wisdom, is it possible that this distillate from all the areas that we know, when neglected, leads to common?
The peak experience, the mystic experience,
no matter how
the oceanic feeling. Feelings of limitless horizons opening up to the vision. The feeling of being simultaneously more powerful and more helpless than one ever was before. The feeling of great ecstasy and wonder and awe. The loss of placing in time and space with, and finally the conviction that something extremely important and valuable has happened.
Isn't it all possible?
It's a very good thing for a person.
To our children, we can
magic moments.
And whether or not succeeded in this great mission of his, of finding what we all ought to know together,
there is some
and whether or not that is responsible,
here,
the neglect
which I think would be of interest.
Is a matter that
in my subject first, what I stumbled across,
and whether or not I can say it in words that are simple enough,
what I had to call mystic experiences, reports of such experiences.
To our youngsters is also something.
And I had come into this investigation with the normal equipment of the normal person in the culture, thinking that mystical experiences happen to one saint, every century or something like that. And here I kept, people would talk to me in the same words as Saint Teresa or Meister Eckhart or some of these other people that I'd read, the famous mystics. Well, I've put it down that way, and but then kept on discovering more and more that these came from many triggers. They came from all kinds of sources. So from the love experience or the being on top of a mountain, or just being taken over by music, or somebody going along a seashore and then just going into this state. And I had to generalize it. And furthermore, I had to strip it of its traditionally, historically religious, specifically religious meaning, what's turned out not to be. The peak experiences came from many, many things, many triggers. Once I tried to generalize them as anything that comes close to perfection. An experience of perfection would produce this experience. Whether in athletics, in one of my subjects, a young man breaking through with the ball into an open field and then running down the field and reporting in the same words that ancient mystics had used. This was a 17-year-old boy. Totally stumbling across this by the purest accident of the women in natural childbirth reporting ecstasies, mystic experiences or peak experiences. So what I want to do is to generalize that. I found since that peak experiences do not occur, they're not the exclusive prerogative of one pantheon of people, but they occur very widely through the population. It looks now, and a preliminary statement would be that the higher the degree of psychological health, the greater the frequency of peak experiences, the higher they reach, the more intense they are, and the more illuminated, that is, the more cognitive they are, the more you learn from them. If you see the world in the peak experience in a more pure form, this can be remembered. Some people do remember, some people don't remember. The people who do remember tend to be changed, just as the ancient mystics reported.